Hey everybody, welcome to our live feed. It's been a little while, summer comes and everybody gets up doing stuff, and then you got the fall fishing that was actually really good this year. So it's kind of hard to get people in and do the live show. But tonight I've got Bob Rees right here. He's been fishing for decades. I don't know, he's been guiding for 30 some years. He's been involved with the steelheaders, NSIA, probably other things that I'm not even aware of. But anyway, we're gonna talk to Bob and see what makes him tick, right? So Bob, where did you grow up?
Yeah, well, Tony, first of all, thanks to you and Amato Publications for the probably around 55 years of history, I imagine. You're 55 now?
Actually, getting close to 60.
Wow,
I think. 67.
time flies. So
yeah.
I remember celebrating the 50th anniversary of STS, and I grew up with the magazine and the publication, and it's really what I did besides doing my homework. So it was a productive time, and everything, all the products that STS has provided over the decades has been greatly appreciated. You guys seem to just bring an incredible breadth of knowledge to our community, and how you guys are transitioning to digital, and it's fantastic. So, congratulations to Amato Publications for 60 years of success and bringing our community closer together. So, thank you.
Yeah, we were just at the NSIA dinner the other night. And
someone said that they can't hear you guys.
They can't hear me. Well, it's going. So they need to check. Probably might be on your end. I don't know, because I can see the sound going right here.
Be nice to verify if somebody can hear us.
Maybe somebody else. Can somebody else hear us? Hello. Anyway, we were at the NSIA dinner just last weekend, right?
Yeah, last weekend.
And a lot of great people. Buzz was there. Bob was there.
Frank Amato was there.
Frank was there. But so NSIA, a lot of people that are watching right now, and I'm not calling out age groups here, but they might not, you might not be aware of what NSIA is, and it's more of like an industry leader for having a voice with the state, with the Fish and Game Department. And if you don't have a voice, then there's nobody there to say, hey, what about us? And you really have to be organized. I mean, you can drive down to the Capitol and bang on the doors, spray paint stuff, whatever. But if you don't have an official voice, which is what they appreciate, and I get that, especially now that I'm getting older, it's very important. And Bob, I'm like, my gosh, every time I go to an event, Bob's there. He's the MC a lot. Great guy, super friendly. But let's rewind, because we're going to go back to this, and we're going to talk about Bob. It's Bob's life, right?
I'm proud to be a sixth generation Oregonian. I grew up in Northeast Portland. Went to Central Catholic High School, where your dad did.
Wow.
I know he left a legacy there. I heard the story at the NSIA event, how he was getting ready to be a publisher. So a lot of great stuff happened there, and again, a fantastic family that the Amatos are. But in Northeast Portland, especially in a family that doesn't fish, you had the good fortune of having a dad that kind of mentored you into the fishery. My mentorship didn't come from anybody in my immediate family. Both of my grandfathers were fishermen and outdoorsmen, hunters, and in the case of my grandfather on my mom's side in Pennsylvania. So I cut my teeth on loving the outdoors in Pennsylvania. My grandfather would take us to his hunting camp for a week during our month-long vacation in Pennsylvania, and just in the back of his hunting camp was a trout stream. So we got to go wade the trout stream and catch awesome Pennsylvania trout. They got a variety of species there in Pennsylvania, but I lived for the next time I got to go to Pennsylvania, because I didn't know. Matter of fact, literally in the first grade, I tell this story to a lot of people. I'm sure some have probably heard it on your event page here, but in the first grade, I was literally going around to the neighbors and pricing motorhomes in the first grade because, boy, as soon as I got my driver's license, I was buying a motorhome and I was headed to Pennsylvania to hunt and fish the rest of my life.
Well, you could probably get a really good deal on one right now. Might not have a motor in it. But hey, did you get to go up and fish for salmon or steelhead back then? Or, I mean, what year are we talking about?
I mean, first grade,
maybe,
right? So
maybe they didn't have them in the lake. I don't want to date things here.
Yeah, well,
I think they planted them in the 50s or 60s. Anyway.
Yeah, but my experience in Oregon was next to nothing. I mean, when my grandfather came out here on the subsequent years we weren't in Pennsylvania, my dad would go with his cousin and take him salmon fishing out of Hammond into the Pacific. And so, I'd see these, they'd be bringing salmon home that, of course, looked like 55 pounds to me, but they were literally just coho that were 8 or 9 pounds at that time. But I was absolutely fascinated with silver-sided fish. And also in the first grade, I went to Diamond Lake. I had my first kind of wild trout experience at Diamond Lake. And
let's bring up some of the pics up here. So this is where?
That's still in high school. I was at least able to drive at Roslyn Lake there, and so that kid that's holding that fish, which is a steelhead, was caught in Roslyn Lake, which is just out of Sandy. And at the time, we're cutting our teeth, especially a guy who doesn't have anybody mentoring him into the fishery on how to do it. And so I actually learned how to row a boat. My first step into the fishery was buying a rubber raft and rowing it around in any kind of conditions in Roslyn Lake, because steelhead fishing, while I was driven to do it, it was challenging. As a beginner fisherman. It took me 2 years to catch my first steelhead.
I was up there just the other day. I was looking for the lake. And you said it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
I was like, well, I know it's here somewhere. So I probably drove right around. I remember there was a berm that built up where the lake was, and you could go over the edge of it. But, crazy.
Yeah, and so after a hard morning of blanking on steelhead, Roslyn Lake was my backup fishery, and I'd go trout fishing and inevitably have an opportunity for trout. So, and of course, that's and that brings me back to memories like spending, copious amounts of time on the bridges of the Nicanicum River, fishing for sea run cutthroat trout in August.
I used to cast off the bridge.
Yeah.
And catch the sculpins and little crabs.
Yeah.
Whatever bit, whatever you could lift up the bridge, pull over. I don't know, was there like 3 or 4 bridges right there?
Yep.
And memories, right?
12th Avenue was the kingpin of bridges. And
so looks like you got some salmon here.
So this is in college, actually, and I drove over. I was in Astoria this morning and drove over the Longview Bridge today, and I pointed out to my friend Grant Putnam, hey, that's where I caught twin 20-pound spring Chinook off of that beach, which is no longer a beach. It's a loading dock for some logging operations, but those 2 springers were caught when I was in first year of college at Mount Hood Community College in the fisheries program. And one of my fellow students there, Calvin Coral was his name, he took me down to the beach on spring break. Hey, come plunking with us. And it was in late March on spring break. And I was telling Grant this story. There was 27 rods on that beach there, just upstream from the Longview Bridge on that beach on the Oregon side. And again, they wouldn't even let me cast. I was the first time plunker there, and they didn't want me messing up with their neighbors, So they rigged the rods, the triple spinning glows, they cast the line. The only thing I did different is I put a couple drops of Dr. Juice on each of the spinning glows.
Oh, did that work? Apparently it did.
So the way the stats ran is there was 27 rods on that beach. I was the 24th rod upstream, so those springers had to pass by 23 rods before they got to mine. There was 4 bites on that beach that day. My rod got 3 of the 4 bites. So
that means adding scent means something. You learned that at an early age.
Yeah,
right?
and that's one thing I tout a lot is that plunking is the only strategy where the fish got to come to you. Everything else we're kind of hunting them down, trolling or drift fishing or jig fishing. But plunking, absolutely, scent, I think, in my opinion, is really critical.
And you also learned don't mess with the plunkers. So scent works. Don't mess with the plunkers. these are life lessons, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, and plunking, what a great way to cut your teeth on a fish.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they honestly they catch a ton of fish.
Oh,
on
they
the
do.
bank.
On high water
Tons.
years, they certainly do.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the higher the water is, you can just fish that inner edge. You don't have to cast, a million miles out into the river.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you got, these look like some springers, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Where you got those at?
So
The
this, nope.
No?
So I mean, this is an iconic photograph in the sense that, we may not see this in our lifetime unless we get Snake River breach, Snake River Dam breach. So this was in 2001. It was the first year that we achieved a return of about 450,000 spring chinook to the Columbia River. Yeah, and it was. So this was maybe day 3 of a 3-day stint where we landed 47 spring chinook in 3 days. 30 of them were hatchery, 17 were wild. But you put your gob of eggs on the bottom of
I
it.
was just gonna say, you're below the dam with a fistful of eggs.
Exactly.
About 20 ounces of lead,
Uh-huh.
with 400 other boats that were out there.
It was ridiculous fishing.
Yeah, actually, back in the day, right? Like, we're not that old, but I mean, honestly, the fishing, that was like 2002,
2001. Yeah.
It was crazy, and it just happened. Probably everything came together and it's probably going to do that again. I don't want to say when, but
It's been over 20 years.
yeah. But anyway, it's just pretty crazy, and the steelhead numbers were just even crazy.
They were.
I mean, geez. But like I said, I'm not 80 yet. Are you 80? I don't know.
No, that's it. But it is, something that and one of the things to interject here is that this is what NSIA is working on.
Yeah, numbers.
Yeah, and so we have a goalpost on what's feasible for Columbia River spring chinook. That year was 450,000. We had a 2-fish bag limit. We fished probably 27, 28 days in April, and even into May because we had the numbers without impacting Snake River wild fish. That was the best that we've seen.
That was amazing.
But what's happening with NSIA, and our executive director is part of the Columbia Basin Collaborative, and I don't know if you can put up this sheet right here. This is what.
It's at the bottom. Oh, keep going.
Sorry to mix up.
Oh, it's okay.
your program here.
We're not like
Run size
no
goals.
commercials, no breaks. We're just we can do whatever we want when we want, and we can change it up.
Yeah.
So this is the top part, and that's the current run size. I can see that even with my glasses off.
Yep.
And so you can see that the spring chinook was 276 total, summers 75,000, fall, which was great, 752. That's a good number.
That's a
really
good number. Yeah.
So then if you go to the next one, we've got the run size.
Low.
This is the low end goals, and I don't know, how does this match up with the federal government?
So what's important to note here is that if we adopt the recommendations that came about out of the Columbia Basin Collaborative on a low return year, now I gotta put on my glasses. On a low return year, we're gonna see spring chinook numbers. This is on a bad year of a total of about 415,000. That's 217,000 hatchery fish, almost 200,000 wild fish, and 415,000 total fish. So that's, if these measures are adopted, that's the bad years.
Which that's not terrible.
Oh my God, it's what our current record is.
Yeah.
But on a good year, if you go down to the blue
So
here,
let's see the good year. Billions, right? Billions.
with that B.
I mean, okay, let's throw the shad in. Billions.
So for wild spring chinook, if we got and what made 2001 so productive is a number of factors. One is that we had a flood in '96, and so it kind of negated mortality at dams. It sent smolts over the top of the dams instead of through the turbines.
Okay, so this is an interesting question because I had a couple people already, or I've talked to a couple of people about it already. So these fish that came in and spawned in the lower sections of these rivers, Did their eggs make it? My thought is if they spawned a couple of months ago, this could be really good because the egg that had Alvin came out and it got a free ride right down to the ocean, right? I mean that sounds good, right?
Yeah.
But if the eggs haven't hatched, well, I don't have to explain that part,
Right.
But then again, I don't know. I mean, anyway, but think about that. Think about what he just said. In '96, we had a huge flood. And then afterwards, we had phenomenal fishing. So something, granted, a lot of the wild coho spawn way upstream. There's a lot of steelhead spawn in tiny little creeks. So technically, hopefully, a lot of those eggs would be fine. But and the hatcheries haven't released any fish at this point, right? So you're essentially kind of looking at those lower river spawners that spawned in the mainstream that could have an issue, but we don't really know. I'd like to know. Maybe somebody's got a comment that could explain that. I don't know.
Well, a lot of dynamics to it. I mean,
Right.
It's always been that way, and one of the reasons we are having struggling returns on wild fish is we've lost the diversification of life histories. Over the course of time, even like coho had, maybe 2 or 3 different life histories where some of them resided in the tributaries until springtime. Some of them resided in the main stem. Some of them resided in the soft water areas in the estuary before they migrated back up into the river system. But we've kind of homogenized the runs so that the way we've modified rivers and ecosystems, it's made, only one particular life history somewhat successful, depending on what environmental conditions are that year. So we've lost kind of an array of diversification over life histories, and that's one of the main reasons why we're losing our runs at a rapid rate. So
we got some water quality issues,
Yep.
just construction, just stuff like that.
Yep.
I got to say though, in general, I've seen a lot of restoration projects all over the place. Just right down here at the park. It was literally just concrete lined. It's a little spring creek. They ripped the concrete out. They planted native plants, and I think they had coho spawning in there. Probably spawning there this year, I would bet, because there was a lot of coho.
Yeah.
But in general, there's a lot of good things happening all the time. So we gotta say stuff like that so people appreciate it or acknowledge that it's happening.
Yeah, and it's not. And look what's happening on the Clackamas. I mean, record returns at coho to the upper
Oh,
basin.
there was a chum in the Clackamas, and my dad, nobody I know has ever heard of a chum being caught, which is odd. It's a good thing because maybe there was a lot of chums somewhere.
Yeah.
So I know Washington had a ton of them.
Yep.
Anyway,
Columbia gets some chums, so. Yeah, it's not all bad news. I mean, what's kind of saved some North Coast fishermen, is the fact that our fall Chinook are tanking in Tillamook County.
And that is a weird little bit.
There's
the river is pretty free flowing going
Yeah.
past town, right? Anyway, I don't know. That's probably the ocean.
There's an ocean factor there. There was a breakout of what's called cryptobia in 2019 that killed half of the returning broodstock that year.
Water temperatures at the hatcheries can just wreak havoc.
Yep.
I know that. So let's keep going. So we got a picture here of you with the former former governor, right? Kitzhaber.
Yeah, Governor Kitzhaber. And I met him in his last term of office, and we got to fish on Tillamook Bay. I got to know his French teacher, and his French teacher had his dad out, and so he said, "Hey, Governor, why don't you come fishing with us on Tillamook Bay?" And so I got to take him fishing in 2018, and we fished. It was 2008, way off. And we got to fish.
They were old guys, remember?
The years go by like
you gotta
that.
add up a little extra decade. Anyway,
Give or take a decade, yeah.
Fishing with the governor.
And we, I think it was the first time I got my first double on fall Chinook in Tillamook. We were fishing a place called Sandstone Point, which is between Bay City and the Ghost Hole. And we fished for about 4 hours and caught 5 nice fall Chinook. And he got his limit, got 2 fish. And I just, for folks that don't know him like I do, and a lot of fishermen do know, he did incredible things for our salmon.
Yeah,
He was
a pro fish governor.
Yep, for sure.
Pro sports fishing governor.
And the governor that made the transition of prioritizing sport fishing on the main stem Columbia. So under his third term, it was a priority for him, which is a big deal for a governor to take up a priority such as this.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of it had to do with the relationship that NSIA had with him particularly. We knew him from his previous terms in office. We went to him when he first announced that he was running for office, and we told him we're already supporters, but this is a priority for us, is getting gill nets off the main stem and prioritizing sport fishing economics for the region. And so it's a heavy lift. He had to fight a lot of people to get it done. He had to, there was a point where that bill was close to getting axed by the Speaker of the House, and he marched into that Speaker's office and says, this bill's staying here. So he went to bat for sport anglers. He knew that was the right thing to do on behalf of conservation and in the sport fishing community. And he got reforms. He got the nets out of the main stem for spring Chinook and summer Chinook. And we have a fall priority, which we used to fight over. We have a 70-30 allocation on fall fish. So it is clearly a sport fishing priority. There's a lot of people who still talk about main stem fall Chinook gillnet fisheries and why are they here? Well, at the time of the reforms, the sport anglers, we weren't utilizing all of the impacts for fall salmon. So, part of the agreement was and Governor Kitzhaber was adamant about this, is that the commercial fleet can't really be financially harmed in this process. So keeping them on the main stem for fall salmon was an important, critical component of that. And then bolstering the safe area fisheries, which the gillnet fleet slaughtered the spring Chinook in the safe area fisheries last spring.
Yeah, honestly, there's so many pieces of the pie, and everybody wants their piece.
Yep.
And it just comes down to everybody has to have a voice to at least try to get their slice. And but in good years, everybody's happy. Big fish numbers, hey, no problem. But the numbers drop and things get tight.
Well, and that's the reason NSI has poured so many resources into this Columbia Basin Collaborative, because these are numbers that are so important. We have seen what 450,000 spring Chinook provide to the Columbia Basin. Robust fisheries, 2 fish bag limits, and catch rates unforeseen ever before for Columbia River spring Chinook. Sure. So on a bad year, we talked about what the threshold is. On a bad year, we'd still see 415,000.
Yeah, the bad year is really a good year. From what you were showing me on that chart. So,
and on a good year, we would see almost 2.8 million spring Chinook back to the Columbia River. 2.8 million. So we had conditions, high water event like the flood in '96 with unprecedented productive ocean conditions.
Happening right now.
2.8 million springers. Do you have any idea what that means?
No, I know.
It's inconceivable. Yeah, so a lot of work still to be done. This is the Columbia Basin Collaborative, and of course NSIA has been on the forefront for Snake River Dam breach, which is a critical component to recovering Snake River fish and the Columbia Basin salmon in of itself.
Yeah, we'll see. That's a tough one. All right, let's keep going. Let's do the lingcod here. Where'd you get that? Is that off the Oregon coast somewhere?
That ling, I think Bill Monroe actually took that photograph.
Oh, really?
So we were doing kind of an educational piece, and he wrote a little bit about forage fish. Everything turns back to politics, right? So that particular fish, I think Bill actually hooked it and caught it. We hooked it on the inside, on the river side of the Columbia River along the South Jetty. We were fishing, I think it must have been maybe it was May. And we were fishing, and we catch a sea bass, and he hooked that big ling, and I just pulled the boat away from the rocks. So you know how those lings, they get hooked and they go digging into the rocks there? Holes. Yeah, so we pulled away so that fish couldn't do that, and he landed it, but he said, you hold this and take a picture. So although I didn't catch it, but I was the guide for it. But we were telling a story. I mean, we took some photographs of what was in the stomach contents of that fish and the different bait fish that were in there. And that particular time, we were working with Pew Environmental on securing securing protections for what they call unmanaged forage fish, species like Pacific sand lance, a variety of squid species, Pacific sari, and these are fish that a lot of times exist in the high seas that get overlooked. They're not as sexy as herring and anchovies and sardines that have protections, but they're a critical component of
part of the food chain.
Absolutely.
Once the fish get out there.
Yep, steelhead, they're out there.
And by the way, be careful if you ever go to where he's talking about. I'm rewinding a little bit. 'Cause if you're out in that spot at the wrong time, that's like the worst spot on the bar when it starts getting ugly. So yeah, get there early. Well, not too early, but leave early. Early. Yeah. Well, late early, I guess.
Oh yeah, and it's it's a fantastic fishery, but the fact of the matter is that south and Sunken Jetty.
Oh, there's rocks that are. Because the farther you go out, the rocks just start to. I forget what it's called, but they're all over the place.
The Sunken Jetty there, and it is snaggy as all get out. But
it's good fishing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a calm ocean. You have to have little wind. You have to have small tides. You have to hit it during tide exchange because otherwise, the lings are on the deep side of the riverside before it tops off at about 23 foot on top of the jetty, and then it goes down to 50 foot on the ocean side.
Yeah, it does like a big roll thing.
And the lings are on the steep ledges, and that's if you're on any kind of drift going over that and you don't get your gear up as you go up, you're going to snag up and lose your gear, and really hard to. It's very technical fishery, yeah. So, but worth it. Lingcod is a delicious fish, every bit as good as halibut, some would say. So,
I love bottom fish. Okay, then we got a nice. Chinook here?
You would think so, but
we know how big coho?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have my glasses on, so
it's
a big shiny silver fish.
It's almost like if somebody knows how to make a small fish a big fish in that photograph, right? So now that was
still nice.
I got a fish about that same size out of Newport this year. That was a Newport coho caught with my friend Bill Kremers, who used to be a fishing guide. He's out of Corvallis, former president of the Steelheaders, and that was I think that must have been like a July coho, I think, and we would combo it up with some halibut fishing. But man, that time of year, those coho they spend a lot. I mean, historically, Astoria is one of the more productive ports, but the last couple of years, Newport's been very productive. Hopefully you got out to get out fishing there.
I don't know, my son-in-law might have gone down there, but. No comment.
Well, that was the hatchery fish.
Yeah, no, that's nice. I had 12, 13, and holding it out.
Yeah.
It's hard to guess. But,
and we had the non-select fishery out there, so you can keep coho whether they're hatchery or wild. And when I was fished with Bill in September, I believe. Yeah, it was September. We went for halibut. We caught one small halibut. After 3 hours, we're like, this blows. Let's go salmon fishing. So we're like 20 miles offshore, 18 miles offshore, and we start dragging around the coho gear, and it was just in 60, 70 minutes, we had our 8 coho, both wild and hatchery fish, but, an incredible grade of fish.
Oh, yeah.
And we're catching those fish out by the rock pile.
Yeah,
so
salt water, you can't beat it.
Yeah,
right?
I was really impressed with ocean coho fishing this year. It was really good. So
now it looks like we have a halibut. Is that a magical fish that you caught where it wasn't supposed to be? Or?
Yeah. So that guy, Todd Lebo is his name. And I one of the reasons I want to include this photograph is just the look on that guy's face. That's his first ever halibut. He's fished a lot all over the world.
Oh, really?
But that's his first halibut. And
that's perfect size.
Oh, it's great size. And we caught that fish while trolling for salmon in about 20 foot of water on the south side of the south tip of the jetty out of Garibaldi.
Yeah.
We're salmon fishing.
Awesome. Look at that.
That fish grabbed a herring and it fought just like a piece of plywood. But boy, when it came up.
You guys like, what is this?
Yeah. I had that experience before at a Garibaldi, so I kind of thought this might be a halibut. And
wow.
Sure as heck it was. So yeah, very excited. He one funny story about that is he landed that halibut. He says, I don't know how to fillet halibut. What do we do with this? And I was like, well, I know a guy who'll fillet it for just a small piece for his. So
yeah, or a little bigger maybe.
Yeah, it was a little bigger. So yeah, halibut's great. I mean, it's just a a reflection of the different opportunities that we have here in Oregon. I didn't finish that story about Pennsylvania, but I was, pricing motorhomes and to go to Pennsylvania. But then I came across this poster that ODF&W had. It had a bunch of red ink on it and had all the different fish and wildlife species that we have in Oregon. And that was just a sobering moment for me. I'm like, I'm going to pass on the motorhome and I'm just going to make Oregon my home for the rest of my life because halibut, albacore, steelhead, salmon, trout, elk, deer, bear, turkey. The list goes on and on.
There's stuff I wouldn't even recognize personally, right? You reel it up and you're like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah. Well, I'm convinced there's no better place than the state of Oregon. We're fortunate to be residents here in sportsmen. So.
Yeah, the behind Fisherman's Marine over here, there's a old quarry. Anyway, you can actually catch flounder in there. And I learned this a long time ago, but like that must just be a shocker when you have no idea that there's a little fish that has eyeballs on one side of his head.
Wow!
And they're in there. I mean, it's just strange.
I didn't know that. Are they starry flounder, or do you know?
Yeah, they spawn. I guess
wow.
They come up and spawn in fresh water.
Oh, how interesting! I've caught them in the harbor before, but I didn't know they came here.
They've been caught in that little quarry that was dug out 80 years ago.
Wow.
And they spawn in there. It's crazy.
I didn't know that.
Anyway,
there used to be springers going there, right? Do you remember springers ever going there?
Who knows? I mean, there's probably bass. I don't know. Is there bass in there?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all right. So we got a steelhead coming up here. Look at that nice piece. Is that?
That was caught last December. And so I had the good fortune of fishing with Mike Barksdale and Robert, I forget Robert's last name. He's a Quinault guide up there. Thomas?
Gosh, yeah.
Is it?
I don't know. It sounds familiar.
But he, it's a different animal. I don't know if you've ever fished the upper or lower Quinault, but it's where I've caught my biggest steelhead.
No, I went up to British Columbia and fished some of those rivers on the island. But
yep.
Nick's made a lot of trips up to, the peninsula.
Sure.
But it's on my list. Maybe I might take the camera.
Yeah. Well, what a fantastic fishery. And it's, as a sovereign nation, the tribes get to kind of dictate how they run their hatcheries. And they clearly selectively breed for big fish because it's really rare to catch one under 14 pounds on that river system.
Honestly, they do a really good job raising fish. I mean, I don't want to say maybe, we might want to take some notes or whatever, but Nick was up there just the other day, and they down here we'll catch the fish, take them to the hatchery, the bucks, whatever. And up there though, they'll literally just throw a little net out, take what they need, put the fish back, and then take those fish to the hatchery, spawn them at the hatchery. I used to always joke, and maybe some of you guys have heard this. If we could have hired a bunch of farmers to run the fish hatcheries 100 years ago, the size of the fish, I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah, well, there's policies in place, and
the saber-toothed Chinook might have come back.
Right.
I mean, literally, right?
Right.
Braided right back into that.
I don't know what kind of leader line we'd use for that, but.
Right.
Yeah, it was fascinating, and it still is. It's an incredible fishery, and just we on that trip we caught steelhead, we caught coho, we caught Chinook, we caught sockeye, we caught cutthroat trout, we caught rainbow trout. It was ridiculous, and that was in December. So
wow, that's late.
It's a functioning ecosystem clearly because those aren't all hatchery fish, but they you wonder if you have this high quality fishery. And by the way, we were the only boat on the river, which is really weird.
That doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
And with a good fisherman. So, so it was, but you still wonder, like, does the fact that they might release 400,000 smolts, does that have an impact on wild fish? But I mean, you can't argue the success of the fishery up there. It's they're
doing everything they can, and it's part of their society. It's, everybody's probably involved with it up there. It's not like, you come where there's large populations of people, fish is an afterthought for 9 out of 10 people. It's funny. When I was young, I thought that everybody fished. It's like, it's like, and then you find out that not very many people actually fish.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people that fish, but but we're the minority, and hopefully we're not getting smaller, but might be happening. But anyway, depending on where you're at, those people definitely know what's going on with their fishery, like the whole town. You could probably ask a 10-year-old or somebody that's 90, and they'd know exactly what's going on with the fish run. Where sadly down here, probably not going to happen.
Yep.
So all right, let's keep going. You got this one. This is a Chinook for sure.
Yeah, it's a little jack Chinook that we caught on the lower river with my my friend Stevie Parsons. That's my daughter Katri. That's her first salmon. So
nice.
Yeah, she loves being outside. She could give or take whether she goes fishing or not, but loves camping, loves being on the boat. So I'm certainly not encouraging her to be a fishing guide given the state of the fisheries these days. So she's got higher aspirations than that. Thank goodness.
So now you've been operating, it's the guide's forecast. And how long have you been doing that?
About 25 years. About half of the time that STS has been around or less. So
wow, I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, that's before your daughter.
Yeah. So I actually started the guide's forecast before I went off to Alaska. I had a lot of time on my hands as a creel checker for ODF and W. So you get a lot of time to think about different projects and different ideas. And I started the guide's forecast probably a lot of the same ways that STS started, with typing stuff out on an electronic computer or, a regular typewriter. Remember what a typewriter was like?
Oh, I have the Selectric, cold type.
Yeah.
And I wax and
And then you cut it out and you put it on a poster board and you roll it and then you take photocopies of it.
Susan told me I need to write a book about this because it's amazing how easy it is now.
Oh, man.
Yeah, spell check as you're going, right?
Yes, exactly. So
and you've always written articles. I don't know. I don't know, how long ago did you write your first article for STS?
I'm not sure, but
before that,
I mean, it's a big deal to be published. My wife is a writer. She writes more fiction, and we write more factual stuff. Probably, hopefully, a little bit easier to get published in prominent magazines like STS. So it's a big deal for a guy like me to get published in your magazine, and
you've had a ton of articles going back. It kind of was up and down, and but we're gonna get some more. Right?
Yeah, you're getting some more, Nick. I promise you. Yeah. So, and we use the STS articles in our electronic platform as well.
Yeah, cut, paste.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
Take that link, ding, ding.
Oh, there's great content. I mean, you guys, before we started doing that under our Chinook level membership, I was in your office across the room here looking for specific articles for winter steelhead. Matter of fact, I'm not sure if we still are marketing them, but we were selling your single articles online on our online platform, and people were interested. I mean, it wasn't an overwhelming response. I also have a series of technical reports, the same thing. We don't get an overwhelming response for those. Our reports are what's gets the most attention, because we have the report section of the guide's forecast for each different region of the state.
Scroll down, I saw that.
And then as after you read the report section, then there's a whole forecast section, and that's the real value of our newsletter. Is it tells you how is the fishing going to be this weekend, based on run timing, water conditions, weather, species, the whole gamut. So
moon phase.
Which goes closely with tides, But,
well, yeah, that's true.
So it's
Farmer's Almanac.
It is. It's the Farmer's Almanac for fishermen. It's 40 years of history based on me as a professional fishing guide and how these runs are reformed over time. And we have a great following. We've got a lot of people that enjoy our product.
Anything that can help somebody catch more fish or at least know what to expect, going in, get a little bit of a leg up, and that's what he's doing.
That's what we're doing. You do the same thing. So. Yeah. And the Guides Forecast started off as that project. It was free to everybody. And my goal was to get people interested in advocating for the community, for the fish.
Definitely.
Whether it inspired you to come to a Board of Forestry meeting to talk about how important riparian areas were, to talk to a legislator about, what if flow and spill. The list goes on and on. That's why we developed the Guides Forecast. And and frankly, we were a little disappointed that we didn't. And that's on me. I don't know how to properly inspire people to roll them into the advocacy side of fisheries. But after that wasn't a huge success, we decided, well, if we're gonna continue down this path, we're gonna make this a paid product, and it's been a hit. So
yeah,
we're grateful.
It's good. If you get a chance, go and visit the site. I know. In fact, my son-in-law, he already knew about it, and I was like, "Oh, cool."
For buoy 10.
Yeah. So
we do some video
Yeah,
reports.
I like that buoy 10 stuff. And
Yeah.
it's super informational.
Yeah, it's fun to do.
It's super good.
Thank you.
So there's some other stuff that I don't know if I've asked you yet. Let's see here. So you were not the president of the Steelheaders for a while, but you were
I was their executive director.
Executive director, and so for how long? A couple of years?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. And you might have wrote some articles for STS while you were doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I sure did.
Old guy. And so the Steelheaders is still going strong. We were talking about getting new blood into all these organizations a little while ago, and I'm like we're the young guys. we're the young guys in the organization. Thanks for the compliment, guys. It's okay. But no, seriously, we need more younger people to get involved with this stuff. Granted, the way the world is today with we got some inflation problems. Everybody's working as hard as they can. So I can see how getting involved with certain things could be difficult with time. But we really do need some young blood to get involved. And I don't know if that just starts with maybe going to the NSIA website or their Facebook page, seeing what events are taking place, maybe being a supporter of one of the dinners or the derbies. I don't know what else. What am I missing here?
Well, there is really so much to do. I mean, we have coming up here next year with the Oregon Board of Forestry. We are talking about developing a habitat conservation plan, which would have significant improvements in fish habitat on the North Coast in all our state forests. But there's, as you know, Clatsop and Tillamook State Forests make up over 350,000 acres on the North Oregon coast. That is our wild fish hatchery.
Oh, that's
the Tillamook and Clatsop State Forests are our wild fish hatcheries. And so if you have water quality that's compromised for 30 days out of the year killing fish, we've got to remedy that. So we do that through expanded riparian areas, proper stand management. The list goes on and on. So we're addressing the Board of Forestry to advocate for this habitat conservation plan, which would give us a federally approved plan on how to recover these fish. And every angler that cares about wild fish in the Tillamook, which should be every angler.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because we've lost so much there.
All fishermen. Sport, commercial, if you live in Canada.
Yep. It's an important issue. And, and I was telling a friend of mine today that, when I started my guide business in 96, I mean, this is a pretty telling story. In 96, over a 10-year time span between 96 and 2006, we lost what I call consumptive access to 5 of the 6 runs of wild fish on the North Coast. So we still had access to catch and keep wild fall Chinook, but what were closed? Wild spring Chinook, wild coho, wild chum, wild steelhead, and wild cutthroat trout.
And has any of that come back?
5 of the 6 off the table.
Oh.
Cutthroats come back. We get a 2-fish bag limit on cutthroat. And coho in limited quantities have come back. Wild spring Chinook remain closed, probably will forever. Wild steelhead, anglers could have had some of that, but chose not to because steelhead is an iconic species, and there's really not enough to have that many consumptive fisheries on wild steelhead.
Yeah.
What am I missing? Wild coho come back a little bit, but wild chum, we don't get to keep chum any longer. So.
Well,
these fish are grown.
Not that you'd want to keep a chum.
Yeah, they're not the best eating quality.
In the oocean in Alaska.
Yeah.
Even then, Akita.
So it was a pretty telling 10-year time span when we lost catch and keep opportunities for those species, and Well, what is the common denominator there? Well, most of those species, with the exception of chum salmon, have extended periods of residence time in freshwater ecosystems, and they over summer. That was the common denominator with everything except chum salmon. So anything that has to live during the 30-day time span between mid-July and mid-August is susceptible to lethal summer water temperatures. They were dying.
Temperature.
So they still are dying. So that's what's one of many things that are on tap. People. NSIA and the steelheaders and CCA, they're all organizations that are addressing these issues. And, we need the younger people not only to join and enter into the membership organizations, but, seek leadership roles. We need chapter leadership. We need officers and the steelheaders. We need, greater level support.
Hands-on for a lot of the restoration work.
Absolutely.
A lot of stream restoration.
Yeah, steelheaders do a lot of that work. So there is a place for everybody. And, here we are. I mean, when I started guiding, I had about 150 days a year that I could do meaningful salmon or steelhead or sturgeon trips, 150 days. This year, I did about 50. So we've lost about 2/3 of our good opportunity in Oregon. That's now. What are the 25-year-olds going to do when they're 55? Are there going to be any fish left to fish for?
And honestly, that might be part of the problem, that we're not getting the younger crowd.
Yeah.
You're putting an investment in your life, your future, in the fish, which isn't a bad thing. But yeah, well, I'm a firm believer that things are going to turn around and get better.
You have to be. I mean, to be a steelheader, you got to be an optimist, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
For myself, it took 2 years to catch my first steelhead, and you got to be either stubborn or stupid to do it. Keep doing it after two years.
So let's rewind a little bit. So you went to school, or you moved out here from Pennsylvania?
No, I was born and raised here in Portland.
Oh, you were just visited. Okay.
Visited my mom's
So
parents.
So what was your grandfather got you really involved with it? Was this like something every weekend you were trying to find a place to go fishing, or was it just occasional, going up? Like, how did you find Rosalind Lake? You're in high school, right? In that picture?
Yeah.
Did you read about it someplace? Or a friend of a friend? Or
I think it might have been
camping on Mount Hood?
it might have been Matty Sheehan's book, Fishing in Oregon, as a Bible.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Which is in its last printing.
That's I didn't know that it went back that far.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, sure did.
I mean, it really does have pretty much every little ditch there is in the state.
Yep.
So that's a good book.
Oh, I was, again, and even in grade school, I remember going to the library and I checked out the same book every time, and it had fish pictures in it, or it talked about the different species of deer in North America. So it was just genetic for me.
So then you went to college and you said fisheries. So you must have had, at that point, an inclination that this is kind of the direction that I'm going to go, that I want to go. And so so after college, what did you go directly into guiding? I mean, what was there some, you got to tell me everything about your life, but so it sounds like you wanted to be in the industry from day one. Kinda.
There's not a lot of people that shepherd you into this industry,
Yeah,
you guys
honestly, for me, it was right there. I tripped. There it is.
Yep.
But so what? I mean, there must have been some little drivers, and so college. Obviously, by college, you were ready to do it. So.
Yeah, and I didn't know about the programs that existed. As good as Central Catholic was for us, they don't have a lot of experiential knowledge in outdoor work. So they're pretty academic there.
Yeah, that's true. I want to say, what's the community college? They have classes. The one. Mount Hood.
That's where I went. Yeah, I went to Mount Hood.
Mount Hood has some classes for outdoors.
So. And in my last quarter of my senior year at Central, I had a fellow senior friend of mine who I knew fished in Southwest Washington. He said, "Well, I'm going to take the fisheries class at Mount Hood." And I was like, "What? They have a fisheries class at Mount Hood?" Of course, that's what I got to do. So I checked into the program and I signed up. I got in, even though I was kind of a late registrant. And so the program at Mount Hood is geared towards fish husbandry. So it's called Fisheries Technology. It's still a program at Mount Hood. And we were really schooled to be workers at a hatchery, and so it was work that I did a little bit in my last year of college at the Sandy Hatchery there up at Cedar Creek. And I had a fun time. We had a great time spawning fish, but the other times when you're just feeding fish, it's cool, but it's not all that inspirational.
Read a book.
Yeah, and they're good jobs. They're good state-paying jobs. You get to live in a hatchery. But I was always kind of more intrigued with the biological end of fisheries. So fortunately, my neighbor in Northeast Portland worked for the Clackamas office, and he said, "Hey, there's a job coming up as a creel surveyor. Do you want it?" I go, I didn't think twice about it. Yeah.
I was just gonna say stuff like that's difficult to get, or to live at the hatchery and be that guy.
Yeah.
Those guys, they once they get those spots, they tend to hold on to them.
Yeah. Well, then he was like, "Well, it's in Astoria," and I go, "Well, I don't care. I'll go anywhere." So it was exciting, and I jumped into creel surveys down in Astoria. I checked. My first job was checking sturgeon at the John Day boat ramp, and then it transitioned to walking the beaches of the Lower Columbia to check the plunkers, and then the plunkers at Buoy 10 that were fishing off Social Security Beach there. And I was off and running. I loved that job, and I did it for 3 summers. I loved it. I mean, the minute I moved to Astoria, it's like...
So by the time you were done doing that, you knew exactly where to go fish.
Yeah.
Because you're counting fish.
And not only that, but that job, kind of turned a guy who was somewhat recluse into a pretty outgoing person, because you had to ask people pretty personal questions like, "Hey, where'd you catch that fish?" And
hey, if you ever need somebody to come talk to do the MC stuff, here's your guy. This guy, he can talk.
Yeah.
I honestly, I had to evolve into it, and I'm not the best speaker in the world, but it takes some practice. Some people are born with it, I guess, right?
Yeah, it wasn't me, that's for sure.
Yeah, me either. I'm still learning, doing the best that I can. Hopefully it's enjoyable.
That's great.
But all right, so we got some winners to pick from the dinner the other night. These people all bought raffle tickets, and I think there's four winners that we're gonna choose right here.
Yes.
So I have to put my glasses on. I guess.
Me too.
Oh, guys.
So this was from the Dutch auction bags, and we're going to draw the 4th place prize, which is the Pendleton towel and a candy cane full of Hershey's Kisses.
There it is.
What a great addition.
So Pendleton and Hershey's. Here we go. There's the hand. We're going in. I'm going to mix them up a little bit. And the winner is Ed Bowles.
Oh!
Wow. Some of you guys might recognize that name.
So let's run on there. 4th place prize.
Yeah, Ed's the winner.
Ed was the guy who we were largely celebrating at the NSIA event.
Mm-hmm.
He is an incredible employee with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. We recruited him over from Idaho, and he has been largely responsible for our flow and spill successes on the main stem Columbia, which is vastly improved salmon runs from what it was in the 90s and early 2000s.
Oh, yeah, the spill
is
amazing.
Yeah.
Without the spill, I don't even know where we would be right now.
Exactly. So Ed Bowles, well-deserved.
And he was head of ODFW for...
He was head of fish division for a number of years, and then he kind of semi-retired and went to work just on the Columbia system, just an invaluable resource for the agency. And we have a lot of friends in the agency that have done wonderful work. So Ed, very deserving. Deserving the 1st place, of course, but you got 4th.
Well, he gets a warm blanket.
He gets more and some Hershey's Kisses.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, what's next?
3rd place prize is a $100 gift card from Olive Garden.
Oh, okay. We're going to bring it up here. So, it's like so it must be two $50 cards.
That's what it is. Yeah. So who is going to win the $100 worth of Olive Garden?
Here we go. Hands
gift
in.
Cards.
And the winner is Chris Sessions.
All right. That guy's
Chris
great.
Sessions, you know Chris?
Yeah, he's a good friend of Buzz Ramsey's, and he's a very supportive guy in the industry. So he's that's great. He's going to love that.
Okay, so what's the next
We're
one?
down to 2nd prize, which is a basket of wine and
okay, there it is.
a Pendleton throw gift basket. So it's got a Pendleton wool blanket and some wine in there. So
Probably like that thing that Clint Eastwood would wear, like that.
yes.
I'll go like this. All right, here we go. We're gonna start digging around here, mix them up, and we have. I don't have my glasses on, so I gotta look close here. Andy Walgaman.
Whoa.
I know that guy. I'm trying to teach him how to talk on camera.
Oh, he's shyer than you are.
No, yeah. He's a super nice guy. Andy, great guy.
He does a great job.
And so we got one more, but I don't think we have a picture of the last one, right?
Well, you had a picture earlier of Governor Kitzhaber. This winner is going to pick a friend to come fishing with myself.
Oh, okay.
And former Governor John Kitzhaber, who's a fisherman.
Oh, yeah.
Kitzhaber always underdresses for these fishing events, so I don't know how he's not freezing cold all the time. But
you bring an extra pair of
well,
clothes.
he's also the skinniest guy on the boat.
Rain gear and everything.
I do. He dresses in my rain gear, my stinky rain gear all the time. So
you just take a garbage bag and cut holes in it, you know.
Yes. So who, along with their best fishing buddy, is going to come fishing with myself and the governor?
Okay, here we go. Mix them up again. Here we go. It is Bob Rees. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, it's Joe Roble. Look at that.
Man.
Joe.
How do you spell that last name?
Worobel. There you go, right
All
there.
right.
Hey, good job, Joe.
Thanks for
Joe,
all the support.
So since we just brought Joe up and he just won a trip with Bob right here, and Joe was at the dinner the other night supporting NSIA. He has brought the Okie drifter back.
That's the guy that had all the Okies?
Yeah, you're gonna get some free Okie drifters out of this, I'm guessing. So
3D printed.
Yeah.
No kidding?
3D printed. I've got a few packages right here.
Oh my gosh,
And,
that's
super
fantastic.
nice guy. He's got the machines right at his place. Pretty high tech stuff.
You guys just did an article on
Yeah.
Bill Herzog's Okie Drifter, take on Okie
yeah,
Drifters.
Exactly. So the Okies were first developed back in the 60s in Vancouver, Washington. I forget the name of the company, but I mean, my gosh, you know, some yarn, a bead, corky, a sand shrimp, some eggs. There you go. That's what people use. That's what people still use, actually.
Yep.
I mean, really. But that's awesome.
Yeah, great night.
I'm excited. I'm excited. That'll be Joey. That'll be a great time.
Super.
So where are you guys going?
Well, it's up in the air, but you know, one of the best fisheries still in Oregon is this catch and release fishery for whopper sturgeon down in the estuary.
Mm-hmm.
We fish shallow water, we fish light lead, we fish light rods and reels, and we're catching 4 to 8 foot fish all the time. So I'm hoping we can talk Joe into doing that fishery, and it happens to occur during a time of the year where you might also be able to get offshore for salmon. So we'll see if we can do a combo trip, but we're hoping to fish the Lower Columbia for sturgeon.
Hey, maybe you can wrap some of the Okies around some sand shrimp, or a herring, or a
Anchovy.
anchovy.
Yeah, that's anchovy time of year.
Night crawlers, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And probably would catch fish, actually. So
Yeah.
it'd be fun. Okay, so I've got another thing going on. I've got some. If you go to the Salmon Trout Steelheader website. First off, I gotta put my glasses on. But if you go to just the subscription page, and I'm only doing this for people that see this video, or you'll be the only ones that know about it, is if you use code STS15 at checkout, you can get a 1-year subscription for $14.98.
Wow.
And then on the entire site though, and this little pop-up comes up on it, if you put fall 2023, you can save 35%. Now I tried to put them both in, it didn't work. So if you guys try that, try to cheat. I get it. Also, you can get there. We've got fillet knife updates, subscriptions. Kershaw also got a pocket knife, some cans from the Tuna Bloodline salmon bait. And then there's also some subscriptions. Actually, On STS, I've got some updates for some of the brines from ProCure. And then on the Great Lakes Angler magazine, I have some of the dry cures for eggs. I'm probably going to add some of these cures to the STS site, honestly, because the Midwest guys, I'm assuming, well, they might use a clear brine on those alewives, right?
Possibly,
maybe they do
yeah.
brine. I don't know. I'd have to find that out. But anyway, go to the store. You can update, and you know, a lot of the articles that you guys are seeing online, they are not in the magazine. So if you want to see all the articles, get all the information, you got to subscribe. And honestly, for me to put all this stuff that I'm putting online for you guys, we need to have support. So, you know, I'll drop a tier, whatever. But anyway, it'd be great if you guys can subscribe. Also, all the books are on sale. You can use the fall 2023 code on the Amato book site and get whatever books. I actually started a Facebook page just like a week or two ago, and I started putting excerpts from the books, and kind of leads you to the website where you can purchase the book. You know, it's interesting, you know, us old guys, right? Believe it or not, you young guys are reading on your phones. You might not want to, I know, you giggle, laugh, right? I do it too. Oh, that's funny. Send it to my friend. I'm guilty. I do it every day. But, you know, and then all of a sudden you're reading something, and it's like subliminal. So if you want to read all the articles in STS, I implore you to subscribe. And it's a lot of work. And go to the guide's forecast too, and sign up. I don't know if you guys have any special deals going, or
We're gonna in the coming weeks before Christmas here. So.
yeah. So you know, to get some current information, or maybe what was happening yesterday when you weren't there.
Right.
You can find out from Bob.
I was on Big Creek today. I didn't fish, but I was visited a friend there, and the Big Creek was just coming into shape. There's been a handful of fish caught there. Nat Creek is fishing. The Kalikum River is going to start fishing. So yeah,
I'm just kidding.
It's all time. It's time.
See,
It's time.
And you can find that stuff out from Bob. So is there anything I'm missing, or?
You know, and just one other thing on the steelhead fishery is, you know, we put together in last week's edition of the Guides Forecast a matrix of when hatchery and wild steelhead runs are peaking on the North Coast. So if people have questions about, you know, what rivers are getting plants and when to go, when your best chance of catching those fish, we have that matrix that we'll be publishing on our weekly newsletter for the next several weeks as anglers are figuring out those fisheries.
So go check it out. And so next week I've got, it's easy to say Chris V, but it's Vertopoulos. I say it right?
You said it right.
Yeah, I got it right. But yeah, Chris V. He is, every time, same thing. It's like Bob. Every time I go to some kind of an event, it's like, poof, out of nowhere, there's Chris.
Yeah.
And he is a super nice guy. I mean, really, he's like almost as nice as me. But
Almost.
super nice guy. But anyway, he's going to be on next Tuesday at 6:30. Gonna get to see some pictures of him when he's dressed up like Gene Simmons. It's gonna be fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, that's why he was going through those photographs.
Yeah.
Ooh, I guess the photographs that not everybody gets to see.
So if you're old like us, you know who Gene Simmons is. So maybe
they just did their last concert.
Oh, hey, look at this guy.
I
Wow, man.
thought everybody knew that.
Where's that tattoo at?
I didn't know I was a big Kiss fan. I was a little more Depeche Mode, I guess.
Hey, I liked them all. Well, yeah, Kiss had a couple good hits.
They
I gotta
did.
be careful on what I say, right? Kiss
Yeah.
come after me.
This is
Yeah,
inflammatory.
I like Depeche Mode. Yeah, you guys can look that up. What's the Sound of Silence, right?
Yeah, one of many good ones.
#1 hit in UK. All right. Well, I guess.
That's the way to get a hold of you, Bob, for fishing trips. And
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. What you want to throw out your cell phone number?
Sure.
or-
Yeah. Thanks for asking. 503-812-9036 is my phone, or you can contact me through email, bob@theguidesforecast.com.
And then I'm gonna be loading this tomorrow, and I'll put his information there as well somewhere. I can't tell you where I'm going to load it. Gotta be careful, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so hey, thanks for watching. Thank you, James, for coming in. And he's sick, and Lindsay, who was sick. And you guys want to come out and say hi? Or
No.
Good.
Okay, well, thanks. I don't know what you hit end over there, James. Stop, quit. Yeah, we're not fancy about and we don't have any
Done.
we don't have any letter words that come up from the bottom or
You'll get there someday.
stuff like that.